What's good, family? Podcast. What's good, and thank you for tuning in. Today, we got a very, very important guest, Mr. Dominick, who's going to be with us today as we talk about from married life to single life. He's going to give his input, his experiences, and we look forward to hearing from him. So let's get this conversation started off right. Welcome to the show, Mr. Dominick.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me here, man. Feel good to be here.
That's good, man. We're glad that you took the time out of your day to come on to the podcast and be with us. We're loving it. We're loving
Yeah,
it.
I'm loving
Growing
it too.
slowly but surely.
I'm excited to share. That's all that matters.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, man, go on and tell the audience about yourself. Who is Dominick?
Man, Jesus, man, I'm a hardworking guy. I was married for 8 years. I have two kids. I
Mm-hmm.
bought a home in the Tassel Cedar area about 5 years ago. So during the pandemic, so man, I've been doing the same job for close to 15 years. So yeah, I've been fortunate and blessed, but I think the past couple of years has been the toughest of my time. But I think it kind of made me realize the type of trying to navigate life. I think life kind of I was living high, I was doing everything was going so good in my life, and then all of a sudden it just nosedived. So life has been challenging lately, but I don't pull through.
Okay. I like your expressions. Nosedive, you were at the point, and it took a dive. And life is a roller coaster. I mean, anybody living life can testify that life is a freaking roller coaster. I mean, there's no manual to this thing we endure every day.
Hmm.
But if you find friends, spouses, it makes the journey a little bit easier. So speaking about spouses, that brings me into the first things I want to talk to you about. You said you were married and now you're divorced. So talk to us. What led you to get married? What was that experience like for you?
I met my ex in college.
Mm-hmm.
We was going to school, we were playing sports,
Mm-hmm.
and the moment I saw her, I just knew she was the one. Many people wouldn't believe I'm a shy person.
Mm-hmm.
People who know me, they kind of like, well, ain't no way, but I'm shy, so I didn't know how to approach her. So then I think one time we was at the gym and I kind of got her to say one word to me, and I was like, okay, good. I'm in the driver's seat, so I can, start talking to her. So I had the confidence level to uh to then start a relationship, start communicating with her.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't let her. I couldn't bypass her. She was the most beautiful woman I ever seen in my
Love at
life. I
first
was like,
sight.
love at first sight. So I
Oh,
was like,
okay, yeah. All
I
right.
had to have her. So we started dating in college, and then his transition into after college, and it was just we were just living life like most couples when they dating. And of course, a lot of mistakes when you dating, you have like different missteps and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But through it all, she was my ride or die, and I was hers. We had each other back,
Mm-hmm.
and it was fun living life with her. To go home or to be with someone on a day-to-day basis, just being able to come home and we just laugh about our day, whether we going through, whatever is good or bad. We was able to talk and be able to just,
Having that
you know,
partner, having that
yeah.
that best friend, that
Hmm.
person that you can tell about your day, laugh, cry, and everything in between.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a typical experience for marriage. I mean, I know when I met mine when we were knee high to a grasshopper. I met mine at a teen night, and she'll swear up and down, she swear up and down that I followed her throughout the whole teen night club, but I don't recall doing that. But that
You
doesn't
did.
mean it didn't happen. I'm not gonna say that she's not telling the truth because her memory is better than mine. So she may be telling the truth. I may have been gave that stalker vibe. You know what I'm saying?
I believe sis.
I believe her too.
I believe her. She said you stalking her. You did it.
I
You
probably
stalked her.
did, bro. On the cool, I probably did. But you know what I'm saying? But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I won. I got what I wanted. You know what I'm saying? Hey, whoever
Right.
says stalker vibes doesn't get you nowhere,
Hey,
look at me. I've
hey,
been married. Hey,
hey,
it works.
look at my love language. I stare at you. That's my love language. Look at her. Well, hey, once I stare at you, oh yeah.
Bro, you get the Denzel Washington eyes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Ooh. Now do that laugh. Once you do that laugh, that's it. You good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it's talking about yeah, so
So it
yeah.
sounds like, y'all started on a high note, typical marriage stuff.
Hmm.
Marriage is hard. It's hard work.
That and that I didn't know. I can contest to that. I didn't know when we got married
Mm-hmm.
in 2017. I didn't we did not know. I did not know what I was getting myself into when it comes to marriage because I didn't know the work that it took. I didn't
Okay.
know the work that it took to be married. Of course, when you young get married, we didn't have kids at the time, so it was just me
Mm-hmm.
and her. So we was, living life. We just married and all that stuff. And of course, you're going through ups and downs, but you was on your own. We was on our own learning how to be married. We didn't actually have that. Some couples have that person you can go to whenever
Mm-hmm.
things go. We didn't have that. So I didn't know the work that it took. And
Mm-hmm.
that I think that hindered a lot of our that friendship that we had because we didn't do the small things.
Yeah.
We figured our friendship would be so strong that it can overcome a lot of things. But when you married, it's like it's like someone like a business. It's like a job. And
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't take my marriage as a job. I see that now. And then
Mm-hmm.
after, I see that now. But at first, you was just living life. I wanted to call her my wife. I loved her to death. And I was like, man, I can't see myself living without her. And she was everything to me. But once it got to and they say from richer and poor, for
Mm-hmm.
sickness and health. When you start factoring that stuff in,
Yeah. I mean,
it's hard work.
a lot of times people get married without really understanding what they are signing up for. I mean, I'm no different. I've been married for going on 17 years, and it's been anything but easy. There's been moments that have been easy, but as far as the marriage itself, it's had its ups and its downs, its highs and its lows. There's been points where I wanted to divorce, and there's been points where like I can't live without this woman. You said something very profound. You didn't look at the marriage as a job, and a lot of people don't look at the marriage as a job. But let me ask you this question. Before and during the marriage, at what point in time did y'all set expectations for one another?
Looking back at it, we didn't. I think when looking back at it right now, even while you asked the question, I don't think we set expectations. I think we were so young
Mm-hmm.
that to us, we just wanted to have that you are mine and I'm yours.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah.
my wife, I'm your husband.
Mm-hmm.
We gonna get through life together.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, on my account, I wasn't ready for what could be faced, what could
Yeah.
happen in a marriage, because marriages do get tested a lot, but I wasn't ready for that. It was so much good going for us. We was moving apartments and stuff, and then we ended up having our first child, and then we bought our house, and then we had our second child. So
Mm-hmm.
much good was happening that when it came to when something bad happened,
Yeah.
it felt.
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, again, this is my own personal opinion.
Mm,
I have no PhD in marriage
mhm,
101 or anything else like that. I can just only tell you what I've learned from my grandparents, from my
mhm,
mom, my dad, and from my own experience. A lot of times, there is no preparation for the hard times.
mhm,
So you won't know what your marriage is worth or if it can stand the test until you get there. I guess the best analogy I can give is hurricanes happen in Texas. Okay. And the builders tell you your house is built to withstand a hurricane, but you don't actually know until the hurricane comes and the winds are blowing and everything's rocking back and forth and the winds are howling, rain's pouring down, where you're like, holy crap, is my house gonna stand it? Because the roof is kind of swaying from side to side, the things are clashing against the windows, it's storming.
Hmm.
So you don't know if it's foundationally sound until you actually go through what you got to go through. But a marriage, like anything else, it's not about when you go through it, it's how do you bounce back from it. In your experience, what was the bounce back like? Was it more so argumentative, or was it like, okay, hey, this fence post fell down, so we need to go back and put concrete down versus sand?
Yeah, no, I can agree to that second one. I think age and immaturity didn't the immaturity played a big factor in that
Mm-hmm.
because I can say I was immature enough when things went wrong. I didn't take to being the head of the household or being the man. I didn't stop things and just say, hey man, let's refigure this stuff out. Let's stop, get away from life itself. Let's have just me and you time, and let's
Mm-hmm.
figure something. What it is that we missing in our relationship? What it is
Mm-hmm.
that what's going on? Tell me what I can do. What am I? So let's have that come to Jesus moment. Let's have
Yeah.
that
Okay.
talk. And I think the two factors was the immaturity in the relationship. Like I said, I take my blame on that, but I also would say I take the blame on we got away from God. When we got away
Okay.
from God, when a lot of our stuff went away from having God in our marriage,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it really took a turn. I ain't gonna say a turn for the worse, and there's no returning back, but it just went
Yeah.
left.
Was God and religion a big standing points whenever you started dating? The reason I asked that question is God is in everything, in every situation. There's no situation that happens that God doesn't ordain or allow. It happens for a reason. There's the purpose, there's the reason. But was the church a big aspect when y'all started dating? Was there
Mhm.
another married couple or parents or anybody that was there to help, like, hey, in getting married, make sure y'all keep God in the midst of your marriage?
Her family is very spiritual. My family is too, but I was more clean to her side of family because we
Mm-hmm.
was always going to events together.
Mm-hmm.
So her family is very deeply religious. They Pentecostals. It was all about God and keeping
Mm-hmm.
God in the marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Did we have that couple or that people that we can go to? We didn't. The first part of our marriage, we wasn't even living close to like family. My family stayed on the south side, hers stayed on the north side. We were living in Katy, somewhere close to my job. So we literally was living life alone. It was just
Mm-hmm.
me and her. So we kind
Yeah.
of, I think one of my friends said we kind of grew up together. Me and her, we grew up together where we kind of learned life together as we maneuvered through. We was just going through the ups and downs as we were. But I feel we didn't have that couple who would, we went to church, don't get me wrong, we believe, we have our beliefs, but we just, when it came to the work and the marriage and actually sitting down praying and like, okay, God, let me pray for my wife, man. We going through something right now. Let me ask, what we didn't do that. We didn't have, and that's why I say God wasn't, we went away from God. And once that happened, we turned into something that we didn't know who we were. It was like a time she looked at me and probably didn't know who I was. It was a time that I looked at her and I didn't even know who she was.
Within life, you lost sight of yourself, which in my experience, it happened to me. It was an experience where I was like, yo, I woke up one morning and I was like, who am I? What am I? How did I get here and why am I here? Not
Hmm.
in a suicidal type mindset, but more so in the mindset of I'm really going through something and I don't even know how I got to this point in the first place. Like, I was here and now I'm here. I hear what you're saying. I mean, that can be, especially without any type of guidance or any venting post, that can be hard, because the question then arises, as a man, what is my duty? What is my position in the family? And a lot of times we get married and we say the man is the head of the household. Okay, that's cool, but what does that entail? Like, oh, you can't Google head of household and you're not going to get a clear definition of what the head of the household is. So if y'all went into that storm and there was no clear definition of, hey, what is my role in all this? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be? I can understand and see where it's easy to get lost. And if the head is lost, then the rest of the body is going to follow.
Hmm.
So at what point did it get to the point where, you know what, this is it in your experience?
When it got to the point, I was mainly working by myself because both my kids have autism. So both of them, had to deal with therapies and stuff. So she wasn't able to work like, a normal job to where she can go in and, so everything kind of bills wise, anything monetary, we kind of went
Fall
down,
on you.
sold on me. So I think we had to do some extra stuff dealing with the kids, and we had to put my son through ABA, and it was just add more bills and bills. So I found myself, I didn't even know I was depressed. I was just unhappy, but I was just in my mind, I'm a man, so I'm just like, man, just suck it up and just keep moving, just work, do what you have to do. But
That's common for most men to
yeah,
feel. Okay.
so then eventually I found myself to the point where I felt like I couldn't talk to her about it because I didn't want to value who I am. That's why I say the immaturity where if I go to her and be like, hey,
Mm.
I need this or I need help with this, I didn't want my value, in my mind, I'm thinking my value could decrease. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
said, so that's why I say that immaturity come in where I was like, instead of doing it the right way, going to her, I'm combining
And
my
someone else.
and someone else. You see what I'm
Okay.
saying? So now that opened up a whole nother type of situation because instead of me going to the person who I was supposed to go to and say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what whatever, I didn't do that. I ended up confining somebody else, and now that's like me turning my back on my family or turning my back on her. And now we both not seeing eye to eye. Now it lead to more fights, it lead to more just
Mm.
all kinds of stuff. It started with me and not understanding how to now fight and work on that marriage. I just was like, I'm working, I'm doing everything, I'm just gonna keep working, I'm being a great father, I'm there, and that was it. But when it comes to her, I didn't do that.
A lot of times as men, I've been through it myself. A lot of times as men, we have this idea or this mindset
Hmm.
that the job of a man is to constantly provide for the family,
Hmm.
and he's not supposed to show any emotion. He's not supposed to break down. He's not supposed to bend, break. He's supposed to continue plugging on and pushing on because we're not entitled or we're not allowed to have emotions. That's a common misconception that a lot of young men make, especially young black men. They make that distinction in their mind that we're not entitled to these feelings. So I get what you're saying, and not realizing, hey, I do have emotions. I need to vent. You don't want your spouse to see your weakness, that weak side of you. You don't want that side shown, so you show it to somebody else and they comfort you. Say you're wrong, because when you got married, that for better or worse, you got to look at the vows. We said for better or worse. That's not just for her, that's for you too. A lot of times we say the vows without really understanding this is what it means. I've learned in my marriage that sometimes my wife may be feeling the same thing I'm feeling. It's okay to say, I'm tired, and actually mean it. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I'm stressed out. This is what's stressing me out. This is what has me boggled. And they may not be able to give you sound advice, but that is their job to be able to listen to you. It sucks that there wasn't a guiding force to kind of like, hey, you know what? Let's talk about it. Another married couple. That's one of the biggest things that I've learned in my marriage, especially from my grandparents. If you are married, you want to yoke yourself up with other married couples,
Hmm.
not so much of your single friends, because your single friends won't understand what it's like to be married because they're not married. They'll tell you some stuff, man, nah, your wife should step up or she needs to do this and da da da, because hey, they're your friends. They're gonna tell you what they feel or what they would do in the situation. But if they're not in the situation, they can't really understand what you're going through. That's where another married couple comes in, is like, hey, talk to your wife, or they'll help you where y'all can actually sit down and talk about it and come to some type of understanding.
Hmm.
One of the biggest causes of divorce in the African American community is miscommunication. Second being infidelity, but the first one being poor communication. We forget, in order to start dating that woman or man, we had to communicate with them. We had to talk to them. We got to know them. We got to know their likes, their dislikes, their favorite color, their favorite food. Hell, they may be ticklish on the ear. You took time to get to know that person in and out. And that shouldn't fade once you're in the marriage. That should actually continue. You continue to get to know your spouse as y'all develop and as y'all grow. One pastor said, I marry my wife every day. Every day I learn something new about my wife. And that's just one of the aspects of being married, is you got to have that constant communication, because once the communication breaks down, then what do y'all have? I, I
Yeah.
tell I tell anybody, you can have a rocking body, a Coke bottle figure, big booty and everything else,
Yeah.
but all that fades as you get older. What is the foundation that the marriage is built on? Because if the foundation is rocky, or if it's built on sinking sand, the house is gonna fall. That makes
Yeah.
sense.
I'm on the 100% agree. I think our relationship, it wasn't built on just good foundation. I believe we truly love each other. There's no doubt about that. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel once things got tested, and it got tested and real bad, it was like, okay, let's just walk away. And that's probably the toughest thing as a person can do. I've been with someone for so long, and
Uh,
now to try to experience life away from them, it's just you don't imagine it. You just do not imagine doing that. And it just that it's right. It is definitely mind blowing. I mean, I don't I it's been tough, but it's definitely to be away from someone and not be able to even talk to them, to not be able to you feel that connect. You were like, when we've been down, we had each other back for the longest, and
mm-hmm.
now we can't even have a conversation. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? It's that's when you know that foundation wasn't there, because you always want to have something to fall back on. Okay, let's get away from this whole thing. Let's focus on us. But
Yeah,
it wasn't like that. It didn't get it.
I understand. Believe me, believe me, I understand. I've been there. It just, as the man, we have to really take stock of what led us to this point. It's like, at what point, granted, you were screaming for help, or you may have been screaming, hey, look at me, I'm hurting. But even though you were screaming for that, did you acknowledge when she was screaming for that same attention? You get what I'm saying? It's
Hmm.
like, sometimes as men, we can get so wrapped up in ourselves that we're focused on what they don't do. We look at what they don't do, or what they don't bring to the table, or what they're
Hmm.
not doing. And then you look at Mr. Rogers' wife over there, and she's working and doing the same thing and taking care of kids and cooking. And it's like, man, why can't my wife do all that? Again, it goes back to, as the head of the house, did you set the expectations of, hey, look, this is how I want the house to run. This is how our family's gonna run.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go do this, you're gonna do this. And if you have a problem, you're gonna come to me. And if I have a problem, you're gonna come to you. And then we're gonna sit down and we're gonna hash it out. We're gonna talk it out. One of the things I learned growing up was never go to bed angry.
Yeah,
That's one of the
I
things
do
I,
the
I
same
learned.
thing. Yeah, I do the same.
Never go to bed angry. And I mean, granted, I understand, your marriage has come to an end, which I apologize, but you can also take this into your next relationship. You got to set the expectations of how you want your relationship and your house and your family to flow. I mean, even now, you are still, granted, you're the head of your own house, and she's the head of her house now,
Hmm.
But I mean, you can still set the expectations of how you want to proceed in your relationship with her now. Granted, we're not together and we may not be on talking terms, but we have kids together. So we have to have some type of amicability and
Hmm.
be amicable with each other. And how I want to proceed in that is whatever the kids need, I got you. I'm here. I'm going to be always present for my kids. And if you decide to say, hey, whatever you need to, I'll be present for you. I mean, that's a conversation for you and her to have. But again, it got to start with you setting the tone for how you want that relationship to proceed now that you're on the other side of it.
I feel personally sometimes what has happened in the past, they a lot of a lot of them lose respect for you. So
Mm-hmm.
now that saying that you're saying that setting the boundary, setting the tone is not being viewed or not even being respected or even being listened upon because now you don't did so much, you don't hurt that person. The life that y'all don't had, now that is over, everybody has a blame and everybody has a hand in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hurtful. And
Yeah.
now that person that you once admired, that person you once love and cherished and all that stuff. Now you don't even really think about them. You just be like, you know what? I'm just gonna let you be. I'm just, if you got something to do with the kids, okay, we'll conversate, but then that's it. That I think that's when the tone, yeah, you want to set a tone. You want to be like, hey, we're here for the kids, whatever. I got you, but that lack of respect. And once
Mm-hmm.
once that person loses respect for you, you, who knows? You know what I'm saying? You just never know what a person would do once they just lose respect for you. They just don't see you. I ain't gonna say as equal. They just don't see you as what you were before. Now they see
Yeah.
you well less than what it is.
You're an op. It's my own speculation.
Hmm.
Is you're an adversary now because you've caused me great hurt. You've caused me great
Hmm.
pain. So now I never, thought you do this to me and you've done it. So now what you're capable of anything. But I mean, as the father of your kids and as a man, that's just for you to go and say, hey, you know what, look, what happened between us, whether you apologize for it or whether you don't, whether you that's a conversation between you and her. But as far as the kids go, and as far as your relationship, you just stress the point. Hey, look, I want to have a relationship with my kids. I want to be here for my kids. I want to see my kids grow up. I want to be a part of their lives. And I'm willing to do whatever we got to do to where I can be a part of their lives. That's something you got to stand firm on, and not bend or break,
Hmm.
because your relationship or your marriage has nothing to do with how you interact with your kids. Those are the two separate things. Now, she may not respect you on the aspect of you being husband boyfriend material,
Hmm.
but as far as you being a father and a parent, unless you show something otherwise, you got to keep the conversation strictly on, hey, look, I'm here for my kids. I'm going to be a part of their lives. I want to have some type of communication, regardless of how you look at it, whether y'all are seeing eye to eye or not on personal matters, on raising the kids. Y'all got to see there got to be some type of communication. And again, it starts with you setting the tone of, hey, this is what I would like to see going forward. You're setting some type of expectation of how you want to proceed as far as your relationship with your kids. That conversation has to happen. It can't be well, I don't want to upset her. I mean, it's going to be upsetting regardless because she's dealing with a person that she doesn't want to deal with. You got to go in there with the mindset of she doesn't want to deal with me. She doesn't like me. So let me stand 10 toes down on
I
what.
think I came to the conclusion. I think I had to take a time to myself where I was just like, you know what? I can't try to not even want to win her back, and then I can't expect hoping in history or hoping our past will somewhat bring us maybe our friendship back. I can't expect that. So my main focus, because early on I was hurt. I just hid my hurt. I was, most men we be so prideful and so ego driven that we just like, man, okay, fine, I'm just gonna move on, whatever. But I was hurt. And I mean, in a lot of my hurtness, and in my hurtness, I found myself doing stuff that was out of characteristic of me, not being able to, not helping her as much as I should, or being around as much. You know what I'm saying? Doing stuff that I had no business, doing in regards to being there for her, being that helping hand through
Mm-hmm.
parent wise.
Yeah.
And that has its consequences. So
Yeah.
looking back at it now, I say, you know what, I'm learning. I say, okay, I know what to do in regards to being a parent. I say I may not, it may not, we may not have conversation. We may not, it might go days where we don't talk to each other, but I cannot expect her to want to talk to somebody that literally rocked. We both, the world, both of our world was just literally rocked. The foundation just completely gone, and it was just like we had everything in place, and now we have to literally start all over. I expect that kind of tension of like I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be around you. That's fine. I just I'm still here for the kids. I'm still gonna be here, and that's where I had to grow up. Even at my age of 30, I'm like I have to grow up and say, you know what? She had every right to be mad at me, but guess what? I maybe was a terrible husband. I can accept that. I kind of went to counseling, went to therapy, and I
Mm-hmm.
understood that yes, maybe I was a terrible husband because most men we think husband is okay. We just gonna provide. That's it. We didn't know, but it's the now that I have had that chance to now experience the outside. I say, okay, now it's more than provider. It's like, okay, the little things, the little things that I didn't do and that I see that I start watching different couples, how they interact with people. I start being around other married couples after the fact, and I realized I said, okay, it's the little things, it's the helping with the dishes. Okay, one person cook, okay, I clean up, or okay, you got the kids bath this day, I got the kids bath. It's those little things that you do rather than. Hey, I work and you here at home. I work, so I'm come home and I expect this and this. I can't. You can't have that mindset in a marriage because, like I say, it's a job. If you lazy on the job, you could lose your job. You very much could.
Like I said, the expectations has to be there, but a lot of times, and this goes for male and female, in my experience, a lot of times we get upset that an expectation wasn't met, but the expectation was never verbalized. It was thought, okay, hey, this is just a normal thing, so he or she's gonna do it because it's normalized to me, but it was never verbalized to him or her. So we can never move off the assumption of somebody's just going to just do it because I think it's normal. It has to, there a communication has to be had. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. We're not living in the 1980s. We're not living in the days where the woman stays at home and cooks and the man goes out to the field, and by the time the man comes home
Hmm.
he has his bath water drawn and the woman is waiting. Yes, Your
Yeah.
Majesty. We don't live in those days no more. We live in the era where women are actively working. Some women are predominantly the breadwinners of their family, and as the head, sometimes that can create a power struggle of where the man feels inferior to his wife because she's making more money. She's the breadwinner. So what does
Hmm.
that leave me as? A lot of times, bro, we have to have I can't stress that enough because that's one of the things I've learned. The conversation has to be had, and you have to continue conversating. You have to continue speaking about, hey, you know what? I would like to see this. What would you like to see? Even if something as trivial as dinner. A lot of fights in marriages start over what are we gonna eat for dinner?
All the time. Oh yes. Oh yes. Dude, man. And then what? I guess when you deal with it, bro, it's like it's a trigger, bro. You're like, oh man, it's been plenty of times. What you want to eat? I don't know. Oh Lord. Okay. So now I don't know. So you
Yeah,
just like,
yeah,
okay.
and
Then
then
you,
it
is
becomes
it,
oh well, you asked what are we gonna eat, so what do you want to eat? It's all
yeah.
yo. Then you start naming, man. You know what? Let's go get some Whataburger. Oh, we just had Whataburger 2 days ago. I don't want no Whataburger. Let's go get some Taco Bell. I'm not craving Taco Bell. Let's go get some Church's chicken. I don't really have a taste for chicken. You know what?
Man. Man, look, I learned and hey, I learned. Hey, now I gotta say now, the crazy part, it's not even just a. Man, they even when you they I think it's just more so that communicate you got to get tested with that communication. You got to know your partner. You know, I
Yeah.
got to the point where she had taught me that hey, sometimes you got to stand firm. Be like, hey, I'm going to McDonald's or I'm going to Whataburger. I'm going to get a chicken sandwich.
Mm,
Do you want something?
yeah.
And you know, and I think that's where early on that I was so about, hey, I'm going to do stuff for you rather than taking a stand firm, but like, hey, this is what I'm gonna go to the store. I'm gonna go pick up this, and I'm gonna make this. Do you want
Mm,
something from the store, or do you want something? And that's where a lot of things where hey, stand firm on that. That leadership thing. And I think they want us to do that. I think most women want us to be like, hey, we're going to go here or we're going to do
mm,
this rather than, hey, what do you want to eat? Because most of the time they don't know or they have an idea, but they don't think we're going to want that because,
yeah.
they're like, hey, okay, I want Chick-fil-A. I don't feel like eating Chick-fil-A
I
today. So
mean,
now we're going to argue again.
yeah, it goes back to, bro. It goes back to that initial conversation that you gotta have is their expectations and your experiences, and not being afraid to say, hey, you know what? I grew up in a single parent household. My mom and dad were never married. So this marriage thing is new to me, but I do want to spend the rest of my life with you. But I'm going into uncharted territories. I'm pretty sure even in dating, you acknowledge certain things about your girlfriend, wife, ex-wife that
Hmm.
stood out to you. And again, you know now, you didn't know then. So going forward, that you got to speak on what's bothering you. Granted, we use food as an example of basic communication, but that's really all it is. It's having unpleasant conversations and being able to accept your role in in the conversation or in the situation. A lot of men do not want to accept the hurt or the role they played in bringing the situation to fruition. It's always, well, if she would have done or if they would have done. No, you
Hmm.
got to accept the fact that our actions bear consequences. And I'm not being sexist, but our actions carry more weight than what our wives' actions will. It's not until we react to a certain situation where it could either be an escalated conflict or a situation can be resolved.
Hmm.
It's dependent on us. So we have to be very cognizant and aware of what we're doing at all times. I understand there comes times where it's like, dang, I can't talk to this woman. She don't listen to me. She belittles me. She makes me feel this. She makes me feel that. But even in doing that, we have to be able to verbalize and say, hey, you know what, bro, stop. You are hurting my feelings. And it may sound childish, but we have to get to that point. With me and mine, I use food as just basic conversation starters. And I'll say, what do you want to eat tonight? And it can go into, and then the conversation can shift into whatever it shifts into. But we got to start somewhere. And we have to be mindful that regardless of anything, what we do and what we say, our spouses look to that, especially being a man. Our spouses look to, is this person reliable? If I'm down and out and I'm sick and he comes home, granted he's been working all day, is he still gonna expect for me to get up and clean up and do all this other stuff, even though I'm sick and I've been dealing with the kids all day? Or is he going to take the initiative and wash the dishes? We're going to do takeout without asking me. Is he going to be able to do things without me having to tell him, or am I going to have to tell him to do everything? A lot of men say women are overly motherly. My wife treats me like I'm her child. But does your actions consist of acting like her child, or are your actions of that of her husband? Me, I'm a mixture of both. I have
Oh
childish
yeah.
actions.
I know I do.
I'm not
I
gonna
know
lie.
I do. I like to have fun. I do believe that sometimes I think when people meet me or something, they be like, man, you always joking and have fun. I say, man, life is too short to always be
Mm,
serious. But I know there's always a time to be serious. There's always a time to cut games run. And I feel our marriage was just fun. We had so much fun together. And then when you, like I said, when you so young and now you add mortgage. you start adding kids, and
Mm-hmm.
then you don't have that. You don't, like I say, you big on that communication. I'm big on it now. Even now, I'm like, yeah, I'm very communicative with what I want or what I expect in a relationship. If I get into another relationship, I'm like, hey, this is what I expect. This is because I don't want to go into another situation. I refuse to now cause that problem. If I don't want those problems. I say I went through this with I mean, I was with somebody for literally 10 years, and communication could have easily fixed it, but because we didn't communicate very well, now it was like everything your whole 10 years of your life, I ain't gonna say going down the drain because I have two beautiful kids out of it, and then on top of that, I still have a relationship with her. And I
Yeah.
told her, I say, I let her know. I say, hey, we not might be not friends or whatever. I say, but because most women they think once you go through a breakup with them, now we the men hate them and all.
Yeah.
I said, man, let me tell you, I can never hate you.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a man, you took care, you did your part, I did my part. We both did our parts in being the couple, the power couple that we were. We have two beautiful kids. We both gonna have to co-parent with this and teach them life because if not, I'm very big on a two-parent household. That's what made me try to work on my marriage. I was like, when I realized that things could end, I was like, oh no, you know what I'm saying? Because I thought about my kids. I didn't even think about myself. I thought
Yeah.
about, man, how life would be for them. All they ever knew was their mom and dad being together. Now they have to transition with, okay, I gotta go see dad every other weekend, or I get to see dad one time out the week, and then that's a whole type of transition in life that I didn't want. I was doing my best to try to prevent.
Tune in next week to hear the rest of this episode.